Well, good morning, Ponderers. How are you? Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, the 28th of January, 2020. Wow. Every time I say that now, I kind of stop for a second and go, really? 2020? Man. But it is, and I'm glad you're with me, and thank you for joining us here. So what is Pondering in case you're new? Well, it's a program where we ponder things. We talk about them. We do so from an unashamedly, unabashedly, and unapologetically Christian perspective. So whether it's politics or whether it's money, sex, whatever it is, we approach it from that biblical perspective. And listen, we don't apologize for that, but we also are not mean. We're not nasty. We're not rude. We welcome other perspectives, and we encourage people to share. We are, fine with people disagreeing. We just say, hey, please don't be disagreeable. We don't call names on this show. We don't impute motives. We're not, all that stuff. No. None of that. So we do this every weekday, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for about 20-25 minutes in the morning. And we podcast it too, so it's available via all the various podcast venues, whether it's iHeartRadio, Spreaker, whatever. You are welcome to grab it there on demand and play it. Carry it around on your iPhone. Use it to harass your friends. No, we don't need to harass anybody. But, you can get it on demand. Of course, on Facebook it is too, because we post it, and you're able, therefore, to download and view it, including some back episodes of the program. You can contribute by typing into the live stream, as we're live on the Pondering Radio page of Facebook each morning. You can also contribute by email, ponderingradio@gmail.com. ponderingradio@gmail.com, or you can call us and you can leave a message. And you can say, wow, that was the most amazing program I've ever heard in my life. You've changed my entire worldview. Hallelujah. Or just say hi and share your favorite joke. It's okay, either one. That number, if you'd like to leave such a message, is 860-500-7163. 860-500-7163. So today in the program, I want to talk to you about betrayal. And the reason I'm doing that is some of you heard, I'm sure, about John Bolton's new book. Basically, a tell-all kind of book, which everybody loves to write, about the inner workings of the White House. And, of course, the information in the book was leaked to the New York Times. Imagine that. Apparently by someone in the NSA, because they gave the book to the NSA to review so they could make sure that it wasn't a national security risk to have the book come out coincidentally right in the middle of the impeachment hearings. The book's not coming out then. The leak is, but the book will come out during the campaign. What do you know? What an amazing coincidence. Hard to imagine that was just wasn't planned. But anyway, according to the New York Times, and we need to really qualify that because they've misreported and created false stories repeatedly. And I will tell you that what I'm about to say, that the New York Times published yesterday, has since been completely denied by not only the president, but the Attorney General, William Barr. So I guess that's pretty important to note. But according to the New York Times, the manuscript that they've got says that Bolton said, the president wanted to withhold aid until the Ukraine investigated the Bidens, which, of course, is the first article of impeachment, is based on that idea. And nobody's really seen the manuscript yet. John Bolton hasn't spoken out yet, and both the president and the Attorney General's office have denied that that's true. But let's just say it is true for a minute. The fact that he wanted to doesn't mean he did, number one. Obviously, if he withheld aid, he stopped because they ended up giving the aid, and there are no investigations going on in Ukraine that we know of. The president's legal team, as I mentioned yesterday, has already proven that the Ukrainians didn't even know aid was withheld at the time of the conversation, the phone call between the president and the president of the Ukraine. So it really is a moot point, honestly. The only thing it might do is encourage some people to want to hear from witnesses, which would just prolong this nonsense, and I hope they don't. I hope and pray they don't do that. But it's not going to change the outcome. But what affects me, what bothers me about it is that when you have a trusted advisor, like a national security advisor, you ought to be able to count on him. That even if you did say, I wish I could withhold, or I'd like to withhold, or we really ought to withhold aid from these clowns until they, investigate the corruption that's affected us. Which, by the way, the president can do legally, and presidents have done it since George Washington. But you ought to be able to keep that, have someone, if you trust them and you've sought advice from and it's not illegal, which it isn't, you shouldn't have to worry that they're going to write a book about you. And anything else that you asked them, or said, or stated in a moment of weakness or fatigue. And I want to ask you today 2 questions. Okay? And by the way, good morning, Fred and Jeannie. Great to have you guys with us. So 2 questions. 1, what do you do when you're betrayed by someone close to you? And number 2, how do you make sure that you are a loyal friend? I think those are important questions today in light of that news. And as I was considering all this, the example that came to me was King David, and specifically Psalm 55. That's I remember years ago, my old denomination had a hymn based on this psalm and about how David felt being betrayed. Now, there's some speculation about this. We don't know for sure who it was that betrayed David. Some scholars, probably the majority, would say that they think it was Ahithophel, the advisor. What would he be, like a chief of staff, counselor to David, King David of Israel. When Absalom, David's son, rebelled and tried to take over the throne, Ahithophel basically defected and went with Absalom. Left David and tried to help his son overthrow the king and become king himself. And that's probably what David's writing about here, thinking about when he writes Psalm 55. I'm going to read to you a little bit about it. I'll share a personal example, and then I'll go back to those 2 questions real quick, okay? So David says, "Give ear to my prayer, O God. Do not hide yourself from my supplication. Attend to me, hear me. I'm restless in my complaint. I moan noisily." The pain of betrayal is perhaps the worst pain of all. Someone close to you, someone you knew, trusted, loved, thought you could count on, turns on you, That hurts more than an enemy rising up against you, or even a random stranger. And David's in agony here, clearly, because of the voice of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked. For they bring down trouble upon me, and in wrath they hate me. He talks about, verse 4, "My heart is severely pained within me, and the terrors of death have fallen upon me." Let me skip down a little bit. He says, talks about they're talking about him, tearing at him, just trying to destroy him. Verse 12, "For it's not an enemy who reproaches me. Then I could bear it." If it was some person I knew was already against me, I can handle that. That's normal. Good morning, Pastor Jim, by the way. Great to have you here, as always. He says, "No, it wasn't an enemy. I can handle that. Nor is it one who hates me, who's exalted himself against me. Then I could hide from him. But it was you, a man my equal, my companion, my acquaintance. We took sweet counsel together," verse 14. "We walked to the house of God in the throng." We would go to church together, right? And then he goes on to ask God to basically rise up against these people and to bring justice. And I'm gonna leave that for now. I may come back to that a little bit later. I have been in situations like that where people that I taught, ministered to, served, counseled, helped through very difficult times, worked together with in the gospel, rebuilding the church or creating opportunities, doing outreach, whatever it might be, and had them turn. And by turn, I don't mean just that they, got called to something new, but rather turned on me, the church, gossiped, said things that weren't true or were, embellished. And that hurts. It was funny. I I went yesterday for a physical. Oh my gosh. Oh, I hate physicals. I mean, and I'm so glad I'm not a doctor. I can't imagine having to do to other people what my doctor had to do to me yesterday every day. I won't get too explicit, but you know what I'm talking about. I'm in a real close, relationship with my doctor right now. But anyway, yes, I digress. So I'm a mess. They're running all kinds of tests, blood tests. I'm going to 4 or 5. I don't even know how many different specialists now to have things checked out. I have not taken care of my health as I should. So this is not a complaint, but it's just I've got to go through all this stuff in the next several weeks. But one of the things that was probably most concerning to the doctor, and you can pray about this, I'm not too worried because I don't think it's necessarily an issue, but he just wants to be sure. They did an EKG. They did 2 of them, actually. They did one. He saw the results. He goes, well, I don't know. And let's do that again. And so they took another one. And they saw some anomaly that may represent scar tissue on the heart. And sometimes if that happens, it's because you've had a mild heart attack, and or not mild. But I've never had a heart attack that I know of. So he's not too worried, but he wants me to go see a cardiologist and all that stuff. And I was thinking about that obviously last night and this morning as I was praying, and the idea of having a scarred heart, whether physically or emotionally speaking, or metaphorically speaking. And I would say, it's funny. Last year, Karen and I were talking about this, that there was a point during the year where she felt God in the Spirit say, pray for your husband and take care of his health, take care of him. And last year was a brutal year for us, emotionally and spiritually, just an incredible battle and war. And, for myself and Karen and Steve and Tina, and we're on the other side of it, and we praise God, and He's blessed us, and we're so happy about the growth and people being saved, and the church is doing well, and we've got the building, and it's such a blessing. And so I'm not complaining, just explaining. It was a tough year. And so when she sensed that, felt that, we both knew, you know what, because the stress was through the roof. And, whether that's what happened and there is a scar there, or whether that's just an anomaly in the EKG, we'll find out. But the fact is, we all, you too, all of us have scarred hearts at times, don't we? Where we've felt betrayed, or we've had that pain or that hurt. And whether it's a physical thing or a spiritual, emotional thing, we've had that. So what do you do? How do you handle that? How do you respond when you feel like David in Psalm 55, or you feel like President Trump, no doubt, does today? What do you say to that? And I think the right action, the only right action, is to do what King David did. He didn't lash out. He didn't try to go get the guy. He didn't ask others to go get the guy. He turned to God. He asked God to execute justice. He asked God to defend him. I remember once being really angry at a situation and complaining to God about why He hadn't taken action on my behalf. And basically what I heard in the Spirit was, I will, as soon as you stop defending yourself. That's funny now. It wasn't funny then. I will defend you, Joel, once you stop all the self-defense. So David does that, doesn't he? The words of his mouth were smoother than butter. He's complaining about this guy who's turned on him. But then he says this in verse 22. Cast your burden on the Lord, and He shall sustain you. Right? He shall never permit the righteous to be moved. Actually, that's probably not the best option in terms of translating that from the Hebrew. You may, if your Bible's like mine, you may have an alternate rendering, which is shaken. You know, He won't let the righteous to be shaken. He won't let us be, destroyed or like an earthquake, rattled. No, but you, O God, shall bring them down to the pit of destruction. I trust in you, he ends verse 23 by saying that. He ends the psalm by saying that. But I trust in you. And so the right reaction is to trust God. Oh, no. Come on. We're having a little technical difficulty here, so if you're listening via podcast, just hang in there. Trying to get the thing to reconnect, but I think because of hold on one second here. Oh my goodness, we are having some technical challenges, and I'm going to try to fix it real fast, so bear with me, folks. One moment. Yeah, I'm just going to have to rewire a little bit here because we've got a little bit of a internet connectivity problem. So, hang on. Okay. There we go. We're back. So, sorry guys, we had a little internet connectivity problem. And good morning to Linda, by the way, and thank you, Jean Marie. You're very kind. But I'm all right. We'll be good. But trust in God, that is the conclusion of the chapter for David. I trust in you. And that's the right reaction when you're betrayed. And that's the right reaction for our president. And we need to pray for him in that regard, I think. The other side of that, though, is how do you avoid being the betrayer? How do you avoid being the one who's the source of the angst that David feels, the heart pain that David has, as he says? The one who is writing the tell-all book that President Trump is now responding to or having to. Well, I think, obviously, you keep in mind a couple things. God values loyalty. He really does. Obviously, first and foremost to him, but also to our friends and our family, people that we're close to. And the thing I've always kept in mind as a pastor who hears, and a chaplain who hears people's secrets all day long, as people share things or ask for prayer about stuff or in counseling about things, is this. There's most of the things that I hear in confidence are things that others just don't need to know. And if they don't need to know it, and it's not going to help the person who's telling me by me sharing it, I need to zip it, baby. That's the key. Most of the time, this little tongue thing is the key to unity. Keeping it under wraps is what allows for unity, allows for a connection and bond to be maintained. Have I screwed up? 100 times, 1,000 times. But do I, for the most part, try not to? Of course, and that's to me a very important thing. So, I'm going to have to wrap here, I think, because we are definitely not having a good time with our internet this morning. So I will do so. Oh, there we go. We're back for a second. I'm sorry, guys. We're going to have to get this looked at. Good morning to Eric. So the short version is this. Trust God when you're betrayed. And number 2, if it doesn't need to be shared and it doesn't help the person, then shut up. Zip it, right? I mean, honestly, that's it. On the other hand, if something needs to be shared for the sake of that person or the sake of protecting others, like if someone shared with me that they were planning to shoot someone or or take their own life, I'd have to tell. I'd have to go to the authorities with that. And I usually let people know that up front, that that's the way it works. But generally, that's not the case. And I think I can probably count on one hand over the last 30 to 40 years how many times I've had to do that. Really, honestly, that's it. So, loyalty. Let's keep it. Let's build it. Let's exemplify it. And let's handle betrayal the way we should, the way David did in Psalm 55. So that's it. That's all I got. Sorry about the little blips in and out, but we're good. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 7:30. In the meantime, hey, share Pondering with others. Let them know so they can join us. And stay in the Word. Keep praying. And whatever you do, keep on pondering. Bless you guys. Bye for now. Oh, boy. Okay.